There are many women in this world who have confused being nice with being valuable. They believe that constantly sacrificing themselves, staying silent, tolerating disrespect, and pleasing everyone around them is the pathway to love, acceptance, and success. But there comes a moment in life when a woman must understand this truth. If your kindness is destroying your peace, your purpose, your confidence, and your destiny, then it is no longer kindness. It has become self-destruction. A woman was not created to live as a doormat for people who misuse her heart. She was created with wisdom, power, vision, intelligence, and purpose. The tragedy is not that women are kind. The tragedy is that many women have been conditioned to believe they must abandon themselves in order to be accepted by others. You cannot walk into your destiny while carrying the burden of everyone's expectations. You cannot fulfill your purpose while constantly apologizing for your strength. And you cannot become the woman you were born to be if you are emotionally enslaved by the need to make everybody comfortable. Today we are going to uncover why being too nice can become dangerous, how it silently destroys your future, and what you must do to reclaim your voice, your standards, your confidence, and your destiny. A woman must understand that kindness without wisdom becomes an open invitation for manipulation. There is a difference between having a good heart and having no boundaries. Many women were taught from childhood that being a good woman means always giving, always forgiving, always understanding, and always sacrificing. They were trained to believe that endurance is proof of love and silence is proof of maturity. But what many fail to realize is that people do not always respond to kindness with gratitude. Some people respond to kindness with exploitation. The world is filled with individuals who can recognize a woman who fears confrontation. They study her need to be accepted. They notice her discomfort with saying no. They observe her habit of overgiving, and instead of respecting her, they begin using her. Manipulative people are attracted to women who lack boundaries because boundaries are the language of self-respect. When a woman cannot protect her peace, she unknowingly teaches others that her needs can be ignored. A woman who is kind but lacks wisdom often becomes emotionally exhausted. She becomes the person everyone calls when they need support, but nobody is there when she is falling apart. She listens to everybody's pain while silently carrying her own wounds. She gives chance after chance to people who repeatedly disrespect her. She excuses toxic behavior because she wants to see the good in people. But wisdom understands something powerful. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your heart. Many women confuse being needed with being valued. These are not the same thing. Some people only keep you around because you make their life easier. You solve their problems, comfort their loneliness, finance their irresponsibility, and tolerate their dysfunction. But the moment you stop overextending yourself, their appreciation disappears. Why? Because it was never genuine respect. It was dependency disguised as affection. You must understand that manipulators rarely appear aggressive in the beginning. Many of them appear charming, wounded, helpless, or misunderstood. They know how to trigger your sympathy. They know how to make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. They know how to make you believe that setting boundaries is cruel. And many women fall into emotional traps because they believe love means endless tolerance. But true love never requires you to abandon yourself. A wise woman understands that discernment is more important than emotional attachment. Discernment allows you to recognize patterns before they destroy you. It helps you identify people who constantly drain your energy, disrespect your time, and take advantage of your generosity. Wisdom teaches you that someone can need help without deserving permanent access to your life. There are women today who are physically tired, mentally drained, and spiritually broken because they spent years trying to rescue people who had no intention of changing. They became so focused on saving others that they neglected their own growth. Their dreams were delayed because they were busy carrying the emotional weight of irresponsible people. Their confidence was weakened because manipulators constantly made them feel guilty for wanting peace. You cannot build a powerful future while allowing toxic people to consume your energy. Every time you ignore your intuition to keep somebody comfortable, you create inner conflict within yourself. Deep inside, your spirit recognizes when something is unhealthy, but many women silence that inner voice because they fear being seen as mean or difficult. But hear this clearly, wisdom is not cruelty. A strong woman can be compassionate without becoming controllable. She can love people without allowing them to destroy her mental health. She can help others without sacrificing her destiny. Wisdom teaches balance. It teaches a woman how to give without emptying herself completely. You must stop believing that suffering endlessly makes you virtuous. Some women wear emotional pain like a badge of honor. They remain loyal to people who repeatedly betray them because they think endurance proves strength. But strength is not staying in environments that destroy your peace. Strength is having the courage to walk away from anything that dishonors your value. People respect what they cannot manipulate. The moment a woman develops standards, everything changes. Manipulators become uncomfortable when access is no longer easy. Users become frustrated when guilt no longer controls you. Toxic individuals become angry when your kindness is no longer available for exploitation. And this is why wisdom is essential, because kindness alone will not protect your future. A good heart without discernment can lead a woman into destructive relationships, emotional exhaustion, financial hardship, and spiritual emptiness. But when kindness is combined with wisdom, a woman becomes powerful. She learns when to speak, when to leave, when to forgive, and when to permanently close the door. Never allow society to convince you that having boundaries makes you cold. Boundaries are proof that you finally understand your worth. A wise woman does not stop being kind, she simply becomes selective with her energy. She no longer gives unlimited access to people who repeatedly dishonor her spirit. Your destiny is too valuable to be destroyed by manipulation. Protect your heart, protect your peace, protect your purpose. Because a woman who combines kindness with wisdom becomes impossible to control. One of the greatest traps a woman can fall into is believing that saying yes all the time makes her loving, valuable, or worthy of acceptance. Society has conditioned many women to think that being agreeable is the same as being good. So they overextend themselves, overcommit themselves, and emotionally exhaust themselves trying to meet everyone's expectations. They become afraid of disappointing people, afraid of rejection, afraid of conflict, afraid that if they finally say no, someone will withdraw love, attention, or approval from them. But what many women fail to understand is this. Every time you say yes to something that violates your peace, your values, or your purpose, you are saying no to yourself. A woman who cannot say no slowly loses her identity because she begins living according to the demands of others instead of the direction of her own purpose. Her life becomes controlled by pressure rather than wisdom. She says yes when she is tired, yes when she feels disrespected, yes when she wants to rest, yes when she feels emotionally drained. And over time, she becomes disconnected from her own needs because she has spent so much energy managing everybody else's emotions. There are women who feel guilty for setting boundaries because they were raised to believe that self-sacrifice is the highest form of love. But real love does not require self-destruction. Real love does not demand that you constantly abandon your mental peace to keep others comfortable. The inability to say no is not kindness. It is often fear disguised as kindness. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of losing relationships, fear of appearing selfish, fear of standing alone. But hear this carefully. People who truly respect you will also respect your boundaries. The people who become angry when you finally say no are often the same people who benefited from your lack of boundaries in the first place. Some individuals become comfortable using your compassion as a tool for their convenience. They expect unlimited access to your time, your energy, your emotions, and your forgiveness. And if you never learn to say no, they will continue taking from you until there is nothing left. A woman without boundaries becomes emotionally exhausted because she is constantly trying to rescue everyone around her. She feels responsible for fixing people's problems, healing people's wounds, carrying people's burdens, and saving relationships that are already destroying her peace. But you were never created to carry the emotional weight of every person in your life. Some people are committed to dysfunction, and no amount of your sacrifice will change them. You must understand that every yes costs something. When you say yes to toxic relationships, you say no to your emotional health. When you say yes to constant disrespect, you say no to your dignity. When you say yes to everybody else's priorities, you say no to your own growth. Life is built on decisions, and every decision either moves you closer to your destiny or further away from it. Many women are physically present in rooms where their spirit has already died. They continue tolerating environments that weaken them simply because they are afraid of disappointing people. But there comes a moment when wisdom must become stronger than guilt. You cannot keep betraying yourself just to maintain temporary relationships. A woman who never says no eventually becomes invisible because people stop seeing her as a person and start seeing her as a resource. You must learn that boundaries are a form of self-respect. Saying no does not make you cruel. Saying no does not make you selfish. Saying no means you finally understand that your life has value. Your time has value. Your emotional health has value. Your destiny has value. Every successful woman eventually learns that protecting her peace is necessary for fulfilling her purpose. There are times when saying no will disappoint people. Some may accuse you of changing. Some may call you difficult. Some may even try to manipulate you with guilt. But growth always makes comfortable people uncomfortable. The old version of you may have tolerated everything in silence, but the wiser version of you understands that access to your life must be earned through respect. A powerful woman is not controlled by guilt. She is guided by wisdom. She understands when to help and when to step back. She understands that constantly pouring into people who never pour back into her is a dangerous cycle. She understands that exhaustion is not proof of love. Many women wear burnout like a badge of honor, thinking that constantly sacrificing themselves makes them noble. But a destroyed woman cannot build a meaningful future. Your voice matters. Your feelings matter. Your peace matters. And the moment you learn to say no without guilt, something powerful begins to happen inside of you. Confidence starts to grow. Clarity starts to return. You stop feeling emotionally controlled by everybody else's opinions. You begin making decisions based on purpose instead of pressure. The woman who learns to say no is not becoming heartless. She is becoming healthy. She is no longer abandoning herself to gain temporary approval. She is finally recognizing that her destiny is too valuable to be destroyed by people who only appreciate her when she is sacrificing herself for them. One of the greatest mistakes a woman can make is believing that constant self-sacrifice is proof of love, loyalty, or goodness. Society has trained many women to think that the more they give up for others, the more valuable they become. So they sacrifice their peace to keep relationships alive. They sacrifice their dreams to support everyone else's ambitions. They sacrifice their emotional health to avoid disappointing people. And over time, they begin losing the very thing that makes them powerful, themselves. A woman who constantly puts herself last eventually forgets who she is. Her desires become invisible. Her voice becomes weaker. Her confidence begins to disappear little by little, not in one dramatic moment, but through daily patterns of neglecting her own needs. Every time she ignores her intuition to make others comfortable, she weakens her inner trust. Every time she says yes when she truly means no, she teaches herself that her feelings are less important than everyone else's. This is how self-sacrifice slowly destroys confidence from the inside out. Confidence is not built by pleasing people. Confidence is built by honoring your values, protecting your peace, and respecting your own boundaries. But many women have spent years being rewarded for overgiving. People praise them for being available all the time. People admire them for tolerating mistreatment quietly. People call them strong because they carry emotional burdens that were never theirs to carry. But carrying unnecessary pain is not strength. Sometimes it is simply a lack of boundaries disguised as kindness. The dangerous thing about constant self-sacrifice is that it attracts the wrong people. Manipulative individuals are naturally drawn to women who overextend themselves. Why? Because they know these women fear guilt, rejection, and conflict. They know they can continue taking without giving much in return. And the woman, hoping to finally earn appreciation, keeps draining herself emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. What begins as kindness eventually becomes exhaustion. She wakes up tired, not because she lacks ability, but because she has become emotionally overloaded. She spends so much time solving everybody else's problems that she has no energy left to build her own future. Her dreams become delayed. Her goals become secondary. Her purpose becomes buried underneath responsibilities that were never assigned to her. Many women are living far beneath their potential because they are too busy rescuing others. They are so focused on keeping everyone else emotionally stable that they neglect their own growth. They become caretakers of broken people instead of caretakers of their own destiny. But hear this clearly, you cannot fulfill your purpose while constantly abandoning yourself. There comes a moment when a woman must ask herself an important question: who is pouring back into me? Because some women are giving love, support, loyalty, time, energy, wisdom, and emotional labor to people who contribute absolutely nothing to their growth. They are surrounded by takers, not builders. And eventually this imbalance creates resentment, frustration, and emotional emptiness. A woman was never designed to carry the weight of the entire world on her shoulders. She was designed to walk in purpose, wisdom, and strength. But purpose requires energy. Destiny requires focus. And if all your strength is being consumed by unhealthy relationships, toxic environments, and endless emotional drama, you will have nothing left for your own future. This is why many women secretly feel lost. Not because they lack talent, intelligence, or potential, but because they have spent years investing in everybody else while neglecting themselves. They have become experts at helping others grow while their own lives remain stagnant. They encourage others to chase dreams while quietly abandoning their own. And after years of this pattern, they begin feeling invisible even to themselves. The truth is, self-neglect does not make you noble. It makes you emotionally depleted. You cannot keep watering dead relationships while expecting your own soul to flourish. You cannot continuously empty yourself into people who refuse to value you and still expect to remain emotionally healthy. A wise woman understands that taking care of herself is not selfishness. It is responsibility. Rest is responsibility. Boundaries are responsibility. Saying no is responsibility. Protecting your emotional health is responsibility. Because when you lose yourself trying to save everybody else, you also lose the ability to fully walk in your calling. The woman who finally learns this becomes dangerous in the best way possible. She stops apologizing for choosing peace. She stops feeling guilty for having standards. She stops overextending herself for people who only appreciate her usefulness. She begins investing in her growth, her healing, her vision, and her future. And suddenly her confidence begins to return. Why? Because confidence grows whenever a woman starts honoring herself again. The moment she realizes her life has value beyond serving others, she becomes stronger. Her voice becomes clearer. Her decisions become wiser. Her standards become higher. And instead of living as a prisoner to everyone's expectations, she finally begins walking in freedom, purpose, and destiny. Many women have been taught to measure their worth by how much pain they can endure. They believe that suffering silently makes them loyal, valuable, or lovable. They stay in relationships that drain them, friendships that disrespect them, workplaces that exploit them, and family dynamics that suffocate them, all because they have been conditioned to think endurance is proof of goodness. But a woman must understand this truth before it destroys her future. Your value is not determined by your ability to tolerate emotional pain. Pain is not a reward system. The more you suffer does not automatically mean the more valuable you are. Some women have spent years sacrificing their mental peace for people who never intended to appreciate them. They wake up exhausted, emotionally drained, spiritually empty, and still wonder why nobody seems to value their efforts. The reason is because people often do not respect what is endlessly available without boundaries. There is a dangerous lie many women believe: if I just love harder, give more, stay longer, and endure patiently, eventually they will change. But wisdom teaches us that not everyone changes because of love. Some people become more comfortable in their dysfunction because they know you will continue tolerating it. When you consistently accept disrespect, manipulation, neglect, or emotional abuse, you unintentionally train others to believe that your pain has no limits. A woman who constantly tolerates mistreatment eventually loses connection with her own identity. She becomes so focused on maintaining peace around her that she creates war within herself. She suppresses her emotions, ignores her intuition, silences her voice, and abandons her needs. Outwardly, she may appear calm, but inwardly she is slowly collapsing. And the tragedy is that many women continue smiling while emotionally breaking apart because they fear being labeled difficult, selfish, or unloving. But let me tell you something powerful. Suffering in silence is not strength. Real strength is having the courage to confront what is destroying your spirit. Real strength is walking away from environments that continuously damage your emotional health. Real strength is saying, I deserve respect, peace, honesty, and emotional safety. A woman who understands her value does not glorify suffering. She protects her peace because she understands that her emotional well-being is connected to her destiny. You cannot build a meaningful future while living in constant emotional survival mode. Pain drains focus. Toxicity destroys creativity. Emotional exhaustion weakens confidence. Many women have delayed their purpose because they spent years carrying burdens that were never assigned to them. They became emotional shelters for broken people while neglecting their own healing. And eventually they forgot who they were outside of helping others survive. One of the greatest mistakes a woman can make is believing that love requires endless sacrifice without reciprocity. Healthy love does not demand the destruction of your identity. Healthy love does not constantly humiliate you, manipulate you, ignore your boundaries, or leave you emotionally starving. Any relationship that consistently destroys your confidence while benefiting from your loyalty is not love, it is emotional captivity. You must stop confusing attachment with purpose. Just because you are emotionally connected to someone does not mean they are assigned to your destiny. Some people enter your life to teach you wisdom, not permanence. And one of the hardest lessons for many women is realizing that loyalty to the wrong people can become self-betrayal. There are women who remain in painful situations because they fear loneliness. They would rather tolerate disrespect than face temporary isolation. But loneliness is not the greatest danger. Losing yourself is the worst prison is not being alone, it is being surrounded by people who make you feel invisible, unworthy, and emotionally unsafe. The moment a woman begins to value herself correctly, her standards rise naturally. She no longer tolerates behavior that destroys her peace. She no longer begs for basic respect. She no longer believes her role is to endlessly rescue people who refuse to heal themselves. She understands that compassion without wisdom leads to exhaustion. A wise woman recognizes when pain is no longer producing growth but producing destruction. There is a difference between temporary struggle and ongoing emotional damage. Every challenge in life is not meant to be endured forever. Some situations are assignments while others are warnings. Discernment is knowing when to persevere and when to walk away. Your destiny requires emotional health. Your purpose requires clarity. Your future requires confidence. And none of those things can fully grow inside an environment where your spirit is constantly wounded. Stop measuring your worth by how much suffering you can survive. Measure your worth by how boldly you protect your peace, your dignity, your values, and your future. Because the woman who finally understands her value stops volunteering for emotional suffering. She stops settling for crumbs while pretending she is grateful. She stops calling pain love. And the moment she chooses herself, heals herself, and respects herself, she begins stepping into the life she was truly created to live. One of the greatest misunderstandings in life is the belief that boundaries are selfish. Many women have been conditioned to think that protecting themselves is cruel, that saying no is disrespectful, and that constantly sacrificing their own peace is proof of love. But a woman must understand this truth. Boundaries are not walls to shut people out. They are gates that protect what is valuable. And your destiny is too valuable to leave unprotected. Every successful and emotionally healthy woman eventually learns that access to her energy, her time, her emotions, and her spirit must be managed wisely. Why? Because not everyone who enters your life comes to build you. Some come to distract you, drain you, manipulate you, and delay your purpose. And if you do not establish boundaries, you will spend years recovering from damage that could have been prevented. Many women are emotionally exhausted today because they allowed guilt to control their decisions. They keep answering calls that destroy their peace. They keep tolerating disrespect because they are afraid of being called difficult. They keep giving endless chances to people who repeatedly dishonor them. But wisdom teaches you that unlimited access without accountability creates emotional chaos. A woman with no boundaries becomes vulnerable to emotional exploitation. People begin to assume that her kindness means weakness. They assume she will always forgive, always tolerate, always remain available no matter how badly they treat her. And over time, this slowly destroys her confidence. Why? Because every time you allow people to violate your peace without consequences, you send a message to yourself that your feelings do not matter. Boundaries are necessary because purpose requires protection. You cannot fulfill your assignment in life while constantly surrounded by confusion, manipulation, and emotional instability. Greatness demands focus. Destiny demands discipline. And discipline includes knowing when to disconnect from environments and relationships that weaken your spirit. Some women are so busy trying to keep everybody happy that they have no energy left for their own growth. They neglect their dreams, their healing, their mental health, and their future because they are constantly managing other people's emotions. But hear this carefully. You are not responsible for carrying burdens that God never assigned to you. Compassion does not mean self-destruction. There are people who become angry the moment you establish boundaries because your boundaries remove their control. The version of you with no standards was convenient for them. The version of you that tolerated disrespect benefited them. The version of you that stayed silent while suffering made their life easier. But the moment you begin saying no, speaking up, and protecting your peace, they accuse you of changing. And they are correct, you are changing. You are becoming wiser. You are becoming stronger. You are becoming more aware of your value. Growth will always offend people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. A powerful woman understands that every yes has a cost. Every unnecessary obligation steals time from something meaningful. Every toxic conversation drains emotional energy. Every unhealthy relationship delays healing. This is why boundaries are not optional for a successful life. They are essential. You must stop believing that love requires unlimited tolerance. Real love respects limits. Real love honors peace. Real love does not repeatedly violate your dignity while demanding endless forgiveness. Some women stay in toxic situations because they fear loneliness, but there is something far more dangerous than being alone, being surrounded by people who slowly destroy your spirit. Boundaries protect your confidence. They protect your emotional health. They protect your focus. They protect your future. Without boundaries, people will project their chaos into your life until you can no longer hear your own thoughts clearly. And once your mind is filled with confusion, it becomes difficult to pursue purpose with clarity and strength. You must learn that every person does not deserve access to your inner world. Everybody cannot handle your heart responsibly. Everybody cannot handle your vision responsibly. Wisdom is knowing who deserves closeness and who deserves distance. Even nature itself teaches the principle of protection. Valuable things are always guarded. Diamonds are buried deep. Gold must be refined. Great treasures are not left exposed carelessly. In the same way, your peace, your purpose, and your emotional well-being must be protected intentionally. The woman who refuses to create boundaries often loses herself trying to rescue people who refuse to change. She becomes emotionally drained, mentally exhausted, and spiritually broken. But the woman who learns to protect her peace becomes stronger, clearer, and more purposeful. She understands that protecting herself is not cruelty, it is maturity. And one of the most powerful moments in a woman's life is when she finally stops feeling guilty for choosing peace over drama, healing over chaos, and purpose over toxic attachment. That is the moment she begins walking in emotional freedom. That is the moment she stops shrinking herself for the comfort of others. That is the moment she finally understands that boundaries are not destroying relationships. They are revealing which relationships were never healthy to begin with. A wise woman does not apologize for protecting her destiny. She understands that every great future requires separation from things that continuously drain life from the soul. And once she learns this lesson, she no longer allows guilt, fear, or emotional pressure to control her decisions. She begins to live with confidence, clarity, discipline, and peace. The moment a woman stops begging for acceptance, something extraordinary begins to happen inside her spirit. Her entire perspective changes. She no longer wakes up wondering who approves of her, who is talking about her, or who validates her existence. She begins to understand that her value did not come from people, and therefore people cannot take it away. This is one of the greatest transformations a woman can ever experience, because many women have spent years trapped in emotional prisons created by the opinions of others. There are women who enter rooms already nervous about rejection. They adjust their personality to make others comfortable. They silence their opinions to avoid conflict. They overextend themselves, hoping someone will finally appreciate their sacrifices. They carry emotional exhaustion because they are constantly performing for acceptance. But the danger of living this way is that the more you seek approval from people, the more power you unknowingly hand over to them. Any person who controls your need for validation eventually controls your emotions. If your happiness depends on applause, then criticism will destroy your peace. If your identity depends on acceptance, rejection will crush your confidence. This is why many intelligent, gifted, and beautiful women still struggle internally. They have talent, wisdom, and potential, but they are emotionally imprisoned by the fear of not being liked. A woman who constantly seeks acceptance eventually loses herself. She becomes whatever people expect her to be. Around one group, she changes her personality. Around another group, she changes her values. In relationships, she tolerates disrespect because she fears abandonment more than dishonor. She says yes when she wants to say no. She remains silent when she should speak. She stays in places that damage her soul simply because she is terrified of being alone. But there comes a point in life when a woman must make a decision. She must decide whether she wants temporary approval or permanent peace. Because you cannot have both if people are demanding that you betray yourself in order to keep them comfortable. The woman who stops begging for acceptance becomes powerful because she is no longer emotionally controlled by the reactions of others. She understands that not everyone will understand her growth. Not everyone will celebrate her boundaries. Not everyone will appreciate her standards. And she finally becomes mature enough to accept that reality without shrinking herself. This is where true confidence is born. Confidence is not loudness. Confidence is not arrogance. Confidence is not pretending to be perfect. True confidence is the ability to remain secure even when people misunderstand you. It is the ability to stand firm in your values even when others disagree. It is the ability to walk away from disrespect without feeling guilty for protecting your dignity. A powerful woman understands that acceptance is not the goal of life. Purpose is, destiny is, peace is, integrity is. When you know who you are, you stop chasing people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop exhausting yourself trying to convince others of your worth. You stop performing emotional labor for people who only appreciate you when you are sacrificing yourself. Many women delay their greatness because they are waiting for permission to become who they already are. They wait for family approval. They wait for relationship approval. They wait for society to clap before they walk in confidence. But destiny does not wait for universal acceptance. If you spend your entire life trying to make everybody happy, you will die having betrayed your own purpose. Some people will only like the version of you that lacks boundaries. They will celebrate you when you are over-giving, over-sacrificing, and over-explaining. But the moment you become disciplined, selective, and self-respecting, they become uncomfortable. Why? Because your growth exposes their inability to control you anymore. And this is why many women must learn that rejection is not always a loss. Sometimes rejection is protection. Sometimes people walking away from your life is necessary for your evolution. Every person cannot go where you are going. Some relationships were only designed for a season, not a lifetime. The woman who no longer begs for acceptance begins to walk differently. She no longer enters relationships desperate to be chosen because she has already chosen herself. She no longer tolerates emotional abuse for companionship because she values peace more than attachment. She no longer fears loneliness because she has discovered that being alone with dignity is far better than being surrounded by people who destroy her spirit. And suddenly her energy changes. Her decisions become wiser. Her standards become stronger. Her vision becomes clearer. Why? Because she is no longer distracted by the exhausting pursuit of validation. Her mind becomes free to focus on purpose. Her heart becomes free to heal. Her spirit becomes free to grow. A woman who knows her worth does not need to announce her value to the world. Her life speaks for her. Her discipline speaks for her. Her boundaries speak for her. Her peace speaks for her. She understands that her assignment on this earth is too important to waste on constantly proving herself to people who are determined not to see her value anyway. The greatest freedom a woman can experience is the freedom from needing everybody's approval. Because once that chain is broken, she becomes unstoppable.